The Voices of Vietnam is actually an international organization that's committed to share some of these horrible stories that we're discovering about Vietnamese women that was sexually assaulted during the Vietnam War by South Korean militaries.
And tell me about today's event.
So today's event is another event to educate the public and to highlight some of the stories that these women have gone through and to be able to share this with our community in New Orleans.
And how large is the Vietnamese population in New Orleans?
So in New Orleans, there's roughly about 5,500 Vietnamese American. There's roughly about 2,500 in East New Orleans, in which that's where I live, and the remaining on the West Bank.
This is an official launching of Voices of Vietnam, which is an organization created in order to allow the women who were sexually assaulted by South Korean soldiers during the Vietnam War to be heard, to let the world know of their conditions and their plight, the sufferings that they have been through, as well as the abuses that they have suffered as a result of the actions of the South Korean soldiers during the Vietnam War.
And what are these women asking for, and how can we help them?
You know, like many of these abuses that have been caused by various groups of people, by people representing a number of governments. The women who were assaulted by South Korean soldiers during the war, they simply would like an apology from the South Korean government and to provide some reparation for them to address the damages that they have suffered. Many of these women within the Vietnamese society, they were considered outcasts. Many of them were considered to be, were called prostitutes because they were assaulted by South Korean soldiers. And their children that were born out of wedlock because of these assaults were also victims of these atrocities. So in order to address some of their suffering, obviously they would like an apology, but if possible, maybe some reparations in order to address their needs.
Thank you for joining us today to learn more about the thousands of women who were sexually assaulted by South Korean troops during the Vietnam War. These women have persevered in the face of great adversity and have lived their whole lives without the world paying attention to what happened to them. I would like to thank my friend Congressman Joseph Cao for joining me here today. Together we serve as the co-chairs of Voices of Vietnam, an organization committed to highlighting the plight of Vietnamese women who were victims of violent sexual assault at the hands of South Korean soldiers during the Vietnam War. I would also like to thank all of our elected officials who have joined us here, Councilwoman Latoya Cantrell. I'm giving you a hint, by the way. Thank you for being here with us today. I see many familiar faces in the crowd here today, and I know how painful it is for us to remember what happened back home many decades ago. Many of us fled our country with almost nothing to escape the horrors of war. In New Orleans, our community has flourished over the years, and we have woven ourselves into the very fabric of this great American city. It is precisely because of our common experiences that I have agreed to launch Voices of Vietnam, an international organization dedicated to sharing the stories of the thousands of Vietnamese women who were raped and sexually assaulted by South Korean soldiers during the war. These women have endured so much and their stories of survival are heartbreaking. Young innocent Vietnamese women, some only 13 or 14 years of age, had their innocence taken away and their lives shattered by the brutal actions of South Korean troops. Time and time again, these rape victims have come to believe that no one cares about what happened to them. While many of the people here today and those joining us via webcast care, the Vietnamese community in the United States cares, and the global community should be compelled to care deeply about what happened, and we are here to make sure they do. Together, we launched Voices of Vietnam last month, and it has been a great success so far. Over 31,000 people have signed our Change.org petition, calling on South Korean President Park Geun-hye to apologize to these women on behalf of her father's soldiers who committed these unimaginable crimes. Last month, we also hosted an event in Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club where we call on President Park to apologize. 4 women who were raped by South Korean soldiers participated in this event and courageously shared their story. We also delivered letters to both President Park and UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon demanding justice for these women. This event and our efforts to date have captured the world's attention. We feel very fortunate news organizations around the world have printed hundreds of articles about our work to date. Despite these efforts, neither President Park nor the United Nations have answered our calls. But we are not discouraged. Instead, we are embodied to speak louder with greater determination on behalf of these women. In the months ahead, we will be accelerating our advocacy efforts. Beginning today, we plan to start accepting charitable donations that will help these women and their families to rebuild their lives and send their children to school. We also plan an aggressive follow-up actions, including demanding DNA tests that will establish that Pacific soldiers committed these crimes against innocent Vietnamese women. Today, we will be launching a new documentary about these women and their children. The Con Lai Dat Han is also called They Deserve an Apology, because they most certainly do. At this time, I would like to introduce my good friend, Congressman Joseph Cao, who set an inspiring example for New Orleans Vietnamese American community when he rose to become the first Vietnamese American member of Congress. Today, he is a successful attorney practicing law here in his adopted hometown. It is now my pleasure to introduce Congressman Joseph Cao.
Well, thank you very much, Cindy, for the kind introduction, and thank you for all of the work that you have done on behalf of the Vietnamese American residents in New Orleans East through your organization. And I must say that I'm also very proud to join you in this advocacy process to address the issues of the women who suffered at the hands of the South Korean soldiers during the Vietnam War. Like many of you in the room here, I see a lot of our elderly in the community whose age is the age of my own parents. And like you, I am no stranger to the devastating effects of the war. I was only 8 years old when I left Vietnam. And my only knowledge of the war were stories being told by my father, by my mother, by my relatives. Of course, my own school was hit by artillery shells and mortar shells on a number of occasions. But beyond that, the only atrocities that I have heard came from those who witness the conflict, those who lived through the conflict, those who suffered through the conflicts. And my first-hand experience came from the stories told by my father, who was actually imprisoned in the communist re-education camps for over 6 years after the Vietnam War. So those stories very much resonate with me and resonate with the effects of the war on various groups of people. What I did not know until very recently was the impact of the war on a very small group of Vietnamese women, those who were sexually assaulted by South Korean soldiers. And I would like to share with you a couple of these stories. The first is the story of Nguyễn Thị Bạch Tuyết, who witnessed her mother's assault at the hands of a South Korean soldier at their family tea shop in front of all of her children. Months later, Tuyết was raped by another soldier near her home. Both her and her mother became pregnant as a result of the assault. Fleeing an abusive husband, Tuyết fled to a new area to start a new life. Both her son and her brother came with her. Her life has been very hard, but she has persevered under great adversity. And then there's also the story of Ngô Thị Côi, who was raped by a South Korean soldier one day while she was chopping firewood. She became pregnant and had a son. After the assault, she faced a lot of scorn from her neighbors, who called her a collaborator and a prostitute for having a son with a South Korean soldier. Of course, they did not believe her when she said she was raped. So she moved to an area in Gia Lai to get a new start, but had trouble making ends meet. Her son had to begin working to support her when he was only 8 years old. He did not receive an education like many other children who are called Gone Lai. So as you can tell, these stories are heartbreaking. But now that veil of silence has been lifted, so we can continue our fight to get these women the apology and the recognition that they deserve.
At this time, I would like to introduce my friend and a good champion for the Vietnamese community here in New Orleans, Councilwoman Latoya Cantrell, who will share just a few words.
Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for allowing me just to come up here and say a few words. You know, the spirit of the Vietnamese community is extremely strong in the city of New Orleans. I couldn't help but think back to right after Katrina, when I was leading my neighborhood in Broadmoor, but looking at my friends in New Orleans East. It was the Vietnamese community who stood tall. And when I heard the voices coming from Mary Queen and Father Vin right there, it gave me all of the courage that I really needed to pull within myself to stand up for my community. So now I'm serving in the capacity of a city councilwoman, city of New Orleans, so I'm serving you too, although my district is uptown. But in a very short time, thinking about the needs of our communities, the diversity that is throughout the city of New Orleans, it truly led me in working with the city. I see Laura out there. We worked on a Welcoming Cities initiative in legislation or a resolution that would ensure that the voices of our people, our immigrant communities throughout the city of New Orleans, will have a real place in city government as we look to form policies pass laws, and implement change on the ground. So what that means is really aligning ourselves with what the Vietnamese community, you have demonstrated time and time and time again in this city. The spirit of entrepreneurism, civic engagement. There's so many lessons that we have to learn from you. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for letting your voices be heard at a time to where we as residents didn't know if our city was going to come back or not. But because of how you demonstrated your commitment to your community, you played a major, major part in that. And it should never go unnoticed, and we should never forget that. And so let's continue to heal ourselves in the ways that we know how in order to improve our quality of life. And we will not be done, my work will not be done until you see a reflection in your city government that also looks like you. So it is time for us in the city to embrace our immigrant communities where they're serving and they're leading you in city government. So you have a partner in me, and I just thank you again, Cindy. Congressman Gal, it's a pleasure to see you, man. And you were the first. You will not be the last, because we will not give up until the reflection in our government is truly embraced by all of its people. So thank you.
At this time, it is my pleasure to premiere Voices of Vietnam's new documentary, They Deserve an Apology.
Between 1965 and 1973, South Korean President Park Chung-hee sent more than 300,000 of his soldiers to fight in the Vietnam War. These soldiers served throughout the country, but were most heavily concentrated in Quy Nhon, Tuy Hoa, and Cam Ranh provinces. Although many of these soldiers served with distinction, South Korean troops are accused of committing a number of atrocities throughout the country. In the wake of the war, South Korean soldiers left behind thousands of children of mixed Korean and Vietnamese descent. Thousands of these children were conceived through forcible rape and sexual assault on a systemic level. Many more were conceived after young Vietnamese girls were kidnapped, sold, and forced into sexual slavery. Their children are known in Vietnam as the Lai Dai Han.
Hồi lính Hàn Quốc là tôi ở Phù Cát chứ không phải ở đây. Nhà ở Phù Cát. Ở Phù Cát là coi như là thôn Kiều An, xã Cát Trinh, huyện Phù Cát. Hồi cái đồn để hàng ấy là nó đóng ở gần nhà tôi, là nó đóng tôi biết chỗ luôn á, ở ngay Gò Giỏng á. Ở đấy là kêu là cái chỗ là ngay cái địa bàn của nó là Phù Cát, Gò Ăn á, mà nó đóng ngay cái chỗ Gò Giỏng, mà chỗ đây nó kêu là sư đoàn Mãnh Hổ. Má đấy là hồi đấy là nhà có bán nước á, bán dừa đó, họ đi đổ rác, họ tới ngừng đấy họ uống sao không biết. Rồi hồi tôi cũng còn nhỏ, cũng mong đĩ đi chơi cũng hỏi, rồi cái thấy người Hàn Quốc cái vô hiếp dâm bả, rồi sau này cũng đi vợ chồng về kình cãi, rồi ông bỏ bả, ông đi luôn, đẻ thằng con năm số 9.
Estimates about the number of women assaulted and the number of Lai Dai Han born as a result vary widely based on the report. According to the Korean daily Busan Ilbo, South Korean soldiers raped between 5,000 and 30,000 women during their time in Vietnam. These and other South Korean wartime atrocities live painfully in the memories of the Vietnamese people.
Nhờ hồi đó là cô con gái, chỉ hồi con cô đi học y tá bên Tuy Hòa, học của y tá cô đỡ. Hồi kia thời gian cô còn học trình độ mới có lớp 4 thôi à. Rồi ở nhà ông cha con là rất là người, là hồi xưa ông có trình độ, thành thứ ông cho cô đi học hết, rồi cô đi học qua học cô đỡ y tá. Thì mới cô mới gặp ông hoàng Quắc, Quắc đây ông cứ theo ông chồng cô miết vậy á. Thứ ông theo quá, theo như gái, ông theo như ông ẵm ông bồng rồi làm tới cái mình cũng phải thành người, ông bị hiếp dâm mình vậy chứ gì đâu.
Mr. Tran Van T has made it his life's work to do something to help these women and their families. In many ways, his path was chosen for him. His mother was sexually assaulted by 2 different Korean soldiers and had 3 children from these assaults.
Mẹ tôi thì bắt đầu tôi mới biết rằng mẹ tôi mới cớ rằng là bà bị, lúc đó bà buôn bán trong sở này, bà buôn bán hàng gọi là thực phẩm Mỹ, thì bà bị cái người chồng đầu tiên là kiểm soát quân sự, ông hãm bả, và ông bây giờ bà nói thì vì bà buôn bán làm ăn thì bà cứ nghĩ rằng thôi thì chuyện gì đã qua, nhưng mà không ngờ thì bà lại có đứa con gái đầu tiên, thì người ta trục sức ổng đi vào Hàn Quốc, ông quay trở lại, ông tiếp tục ông ra ông tìm bà, thì bà cũng nghĩ thôi thì người ta hãm mình thì coi có nghĩa là mình cứ xem họ, rồi bà có được tiếp cái đứa con gái thứ hai. Ông này ông đi thì ông nói bây giờ đó là vợ ông nói với lính là đó là hãy coi giùm. Không ngờ thì cái người lính dưới quyền ông lại hãm tiếp bà, thì mới chưa để đó thôi.
Mr. Tran's life has not been easy. He was shunned by his friends and repeatedly bullied for being a Lai-Dai Han.
Thôi có hai việc mà cuộc đời phải ghi nhớ, đó là trước ngày 23 tháng 4 năm 1975 thì tôi được ẵm bồng và cưng chiều. Sau ngày 24 thì tôi bị những người, tôi cũng không biết những người bộ đội đó là những người lính giống nhau, thì tôi lại gần thì họ lại đá tôi và đạp tôi văng ra bên ngoài. Thì lúc này tôi không hiểu tôi là con Lai Hàn.
Mr. Tran Van T has dedicated his life to helping those members of his community who are less fortunate. Instead of admitting defeat in the face of seemingly unsurmountable obstacles, Mr. Tran has committed himself to making a difference. Through his efforts, Mr. Tran has raised money to build homes for women and children who have no place to live. He is most proud of the amount of money he has been able to raise to help the grandchildren of the poorest victims attend primary school and university.
Thì đùng một năm 2005, tháng 9 năm 2005 thì có một cái hai người ở bên Mỹ qua, đó là hai người Mỹ bên người Hàn bên Mỹ họ qua, họ du lịch thôi. Thì tôi mới trình bày cái chuyện này thì họ cảm động, tôi mới dẫn họ đi vào miền Trung này để xem. Thì vào tới nơi họ thấy như vậy, họ mới giới thiệu họ là nhà truyền giáo, họ mới rút ra họ cho cái số tiền cho được 10 gia đình. Thì lúc đó cái đợt đầu học bổng lần đầu tiên mà tôi được phát cho các cháu, đó là niềm an ủi lớn nhất trong cuộc đời. Tôi làm thì nó không có cái gì gọi là giá trị to lớn. Cái giá trị to lớn của tôi là đón nhận được, chỉ cần tôi đón nhận được sự hỗ trợ của truyền thông, của thông tin, để làm sao đó để lấy lại được cái danh dự cho những người mẹ. Bởi vì mẹ chúng tôi không phải là yêu đương hay là mẹ chúng tôi thương yêu họ, mà mẹ chúng tôi bị trong cuộc chiến.
These women have been through so much. They have suffered deeply and carry their wounds with them every day. Yet, when asked, they don't ask for much. Most of them seek the dignity and acceptance only an apology can provide.
Muốn chuyện là cô cũng khổ mà, cô cũng xấu hổ biết bao nhiêu, hiếp dâm cô rồi bỏ cô khổ, con cô giấu không biết chữ, làm cực khổ bỏ lên bỏ xuống, ai nuôi nấng rồi.
Tại hồi lúc đó thì cô nghĩ rằng sao số phận mình lại hẩm hiu như vậy, mà không hiểu làm sao mà mình lại bị như vậy. Rồi mình nghĩ cũng buồn, là tại vì đợi con gái mình mà
người ta làm gì người ta cũng chẳng cho mình được cái gì, nó thẳng là cũng không có cho được cái gì hết.
Nghĩ hồi đó giờ tuổi thân mà nghĩ tới hồi đó giờ ân hận rồi nó để con mình không có cho nó ăn học được, khổ do nó ân hận rồi không nhờ ai được hết.
Mẹ chúng tôi chống lại thì mẹ chúng tôi phải chết. Nếu mà mẹ chúng tôi chống lại thì gia đình mẹ của tôi sẽ bị khó khăn. Tôi nói với nguyện vọng của cuộc đời của tôi là quyết định phải làm cho bằng được.
Thousands of Vietnamese women have suffered with the memory of their assaults for decades. Yet in the face of great hardship, they have found that focusing on the dreams and aspirations of their children has allowed them to persevere. Many of these women have felt for decades that the South Korean government and the world would never acknowledge their suffering. Yet, by choosing to speak out, choosing to bear witness, the veil of silence has been lifted, and they will not stop speaking about it until they receive the apology from the South Korean government that they deserve.
And how can the public get involved and show support?
Well, I believe that people who are concerned about these situations, the lives of these women, I believe that their money is being raised privately in order to help them. So anyone who is interested in donating money can talk directly to voicesofvietnam.org. Norma Jane, she is the force behind the organization. But also possibly speaking to their representatives, their senators, and ask these representatives and senators to approach the South Korean government and ask them to do things that would help these women and their children in the lives that they're living right now.
And why did you choose to get involved?
Well, I personally, I'm Vietnamese American. So the issues of Vietnamese Americans are some of the many issues that I addressed when I was serving in Congress. And I continue to look at the many problems that the Vietnamese American communities continue to face and try to provide whatever assistance that I can from my own personal capacity to improve their lives and also to improve the lives of the many Vietnamese communities here in the United States. Being immigrants, we face many uphill battles from issues of language to issues of due process to issues of discrimination. Even though Asian Americans might not face the same level of discrimination, let's say as Hispanic communities or possibly African American communities, but we do face them. And there must be voices from the Vietnamese American communities that will voice these concerns and help, and hopefully the U.S. government or state government or what have you will address these problems. Again, when you're talking about discrimination, one of the things that I'm involved in right now is against the Louisiana Cosmetology Board, who, based on the information that I got, based on the data that I have received, target Vietnamese-owned nail salons here in the state of Louisiana for inspection, and for fines, uh, and for a lack of due process. So, so yes, discrimination does exist, and the Vietnamese American communities do experience various levels of discrimination, and we must be able to look at these problems and be able to address them, because we live in a society in which everyone is protected by the U.S. Constitution, whether the person is white, Hispanic, African American, or Asian American. We are all equal under the law, and we must be treated equally under the law.
I am just really honored to co-chair this project as the executive director for a nonprofit organization, New Orleans Domestic Violence. Sexual assault does exist, and it's heartbreaking to hear some of these stories that is 40 years old and that we're now bringing to light.